Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for tuning in to join us on this month's edition of the Absa Business Connect Series. At Absa Bank Ghana, our brand promise and our commitment is to help you to find a way to get things done and bring your possibilities to life. This is what our Business Connect series seeks to achieve. We have had a number of series in the past, and as a follow-on to our session last month, this morning we're talking about building a world-class business. My name is Amazing Grace. I'm the Director for Business Banking at Absa Bank Ghana, and I want you to fasten your seatbelts for today's session because you're going to really enjoy it. Today we have as our guest a dynamic entrepreneur who is making strides in his industry. He took a company that was failing and turned it into a company that was winning. I'd like to introduce our guest to you. He holds a Master of Public Health degree from the University of Sheffield in the United Kingdom. He holds an MD from the University of Science and Technology in Kumasi. He also holds a Master's of Business Administration degree from the Central University College, among a host of other professional and postgraduate certificates. After a wealth of experience in the medical sector, this gentleman joined Acacia Health in 2015, and in 3 years, he engineered the transition of the company from the brink of collapse into a recognizable brand and a household name in the private health insurance sector in Ghana. His strategies included a backward integration that led to the opening of the ultramodern Acacia Medical Center. Under his leadership, Acacia has risen to become a member of the prestigious Ghana Club 100 company. Actually, it was number 22 in 2018, in addition to winning several industry awards. He has been named the CEO of the Year for Health Insurance at the Ghana Accountancy Awards in 2018, and he also has been awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year at the Ghana Insurance Awards. With an in-depth knowledge of both public and private health systems and over 10 years management experience, Dr. Amu leads Team Acacia with a vision to build the most profitable private health services system that is bound to become the dominant health benefits provider in Ghana. He has a passion to see quality, available, accessible, and affordable healthcare for all. Today, I'm privileged to have with me the CEO of Acacia Health Insurance, Dr. Dan Amu, to share with us his experience on how SMEs can build a world-class business. Dr. Amu, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. That sounds like a very long introduction for a simple man like myself, but I'm very honored that I'm with you this morning, and I'm hopeful that the few things that we've learned in our life's journeys we will be able to share with your listeners so that they can also enhance whatever they are engaged in. The ultimate aim for all of us in life is that we need to be able to make an impact for our stay here. So in whichever way that we can do that, I'm very excited about it.
Wonderful. Dr. Amu, just briefly tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get here?
It's interesting. Life starts and you have your own hopes, you have your own dreams. You have things that you aspire that you would want to do for your own self. But then as you start life and as you move on, you have some experiences that tend to change the course of your life. I had no idea that one day I would even have to lead a team, because all that I knew in life was that I wanted to be a doctor, see my own clients in a hospital, just stay there and then offer them my best. But then when you start, some experiences, like I mentioned, becomes a call that needs you to actually step into a zone that you yourself are not even very sure that you would excel. But then for me, I have always held the view that if you don't challenge yourself, you won't be able to find out the skill sets that you have. So ultimately, I stepped into the zone of being a team lead, being an entrepreneur, and thus far have we been able to come.
Well done, Doc. Yours is a very inspirational story, and we will be getting into more detail of that. So, we're talking about building a world class business. And this morning, we'll be looking at two key areas: the leader and the company or the business that you want to build. So, Doc, let's start with the leader. What does a leader do? What are the kind of competencies or abilities they need to have? Is it like something that drops from the sky? Are there things that you can build up on so that as a person you can become somebody that leads a world-class business?
Okay, so for anyone to want to lead a firm like that, for me, I always want us to be able to establish a few fundamental things. The first thing is that what are you aiming at achieving? You want to build a world-class company. So that mindset must start right from the very first day. If you look at us and where we are from, in Africa, we don't have access to all the financing that we need. So if you're able to raise a little to start something, your aim should be that whatever you want to build must be self-sustainable, because I'm not very sure that if you lose that first opportunity, you would even be able to raise any additional financing for you to restart your aims again. So you have to start with the very right objective. Now, it's also very key to note that in our space, we don't really see most firms that excel that much. So when you find yourself in that zone where everybody starts something and it's just offering some service that would act or that would be seen as if it is good, you are most likely to also think like that. But I want to challenge us to start with a very good aim in mind. Now, for you to be able to lead a team or to lead a company, I always say that you can't lead anything if you can't lead your own self. So the first challenge for me is you should have been able to define who you are, what exactly you would want to achieve. A leader must lead himself first. A leader must lead himself first. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead a team, because the team will take their inspiration from you. It is what you say, it is what you do that they would also learn from you. So if you are not leading yourself in the right way, you may start with a very good idea, but the idea won't hit. The next key thing that I think that anybody who wants to lead a good organization must have is that you must have the ability to think. Now, everywhere that I raise this issue, someone would ask that, but we all think. Everybody thinks, but not everybody thinks. In the sense that there are so many ideas in the world. At every minute, an idea that you have in your head, I'm sure there are about 50 or 100 other people who have the same idea. But it is the ability of a leader to think right that would determine how an idea would end up on the marketplace. Because everybody else might think about the same thing, but how we sell it out as a solution on the marketplace, it's what would enhance or what would make you excel beyond what the competition is offering. The third key item that I think that anybody who leads such organizations must have is the fact that the leader must have the right attitude. And attitude, I don't know how often I would have to say it again and again. We've all read and we all know that your attitude is what will determine your altitude. And you would also need a very good attitude to be able to hang in there, because no organization starts and right from the very first day you are able to excel. There are years that you have to stay in the game. There are years that you need to understand your market. There are years that you need to make losses. And within those years, you need to have the fortitude and the right attitude to hang in there. If you don't have a very good attitude, if your mindset is that of a short-term mindset, let me start something, maybe in the next 4 years, in the next 5 years, I'll be able to make a profit. How about if in the first 4 or 5 years, you are still not making anything? As long as you have a very good idea, you have the right attitude, I think that you should be able to stay in the game until you can turn the corner. And then the very last thing, which is critical for me, especially in our part of the world, is that every leader must be ethically right and must have the right values for himself. Ethics and values, you would need it in the marketplace, because I don't know, but you would meet people, you meet organizations that you would have to engage with. If you don't have the right ethical orientation, you are most likely to end up to take shortcuts, which may, in the short term, appear to be very good for you. But on the long term, it would come to bite you. I would call these 4 things as the key foundations for the person, for the entrepreneur who wants to lead the organization. If you don't have these foundations, you can build on it. But as you grow, as the company grows, as you start having very large markets, as you start seeing a lot of the funds, these will not hold. So everything will come down and crumble upon you. So the leader must, I just want to list them again. You must be able to lead yourself. You must have the ability to think. Most of your team would come with issues. And when they come, they are in your office to come for solutions. They are not just there to offer you any. So you should be able to think around these things and help them to get the right solutions that they need for most of the issues that you face. And I mentioned that you need to have the right ethical orientation. And finally, you have a good attitude and the fortitude to stay in the game until you're able to excel and turn around the corner.
Wonderful. Doctor, thank you very much. You make a very important point that you can start all right, but as growth comes in, you need these pillars to actually support the growth and allow you to even grow further. And I'll just emphasize those points again, that a leader must lead themselves first. The leader must have the ability to think and think right. The leader must have the right attitude, the staying power, in the good times and in the bad times, and that the leader must have the right ethics and values for themselves. Doc, let me ask a question. In the landscape that we operate in today in Ghana, there's a lot that goes on. And sometimes as business leaders, you may find that you need to cut corners or, do some things so that your business can move ahead. I mean, on the aspect of the ethics and the right values, how does a leader combine the two and still stay alive in business? You've been able to demonstrate that. How have you done it?
It is not easy in our world because if you want to look for examples, there are very, very few examples that you would be able to see and learn from. But that would go back to what I said first, that the leader must lead themselves. You should have your own values. Values must not change because of your environment. If I know and I accept that this is what I believe in, I should be able to stay the course, especially. Again, it also has to do with your orientation. Most often, we are not even keen at solving a problem. We are keen on looking at ourselves. This is my company. This is where I want to go. I want to make a profit so I can live a good life. If that is your orientation and you are not making that profit, it's likely that you are going to fall for any other things that do not align with your own values. But if your key goal is to solve a problem, and for me, the main thing for any firm, for any organization, is that you have found a problem in the marketplace where you want to solve. It hasn't got anything to do with you as a person. It has to do with the needs of other people that you are trying to solve. And if that is the need that you would want to solve, you should be able to orient yourself in a way that making money should not be the primary focus. If you look at the very large firms across the world, if you ask them, you would find out that their original intention was not actually to make money. It was to solve the problem. And as you solve the problems excellently, funds, profit as well will just come along the line. So again, maybe I would have to say it in this way. You have to orient yourself in a way that your first goal is not to make the profit. Your first goal is to meet the needs of your client, is to solve the problem. As you solve the problem, cash will just it would only just come along the line. And I'm sure if you are able to orient yourself in this way, you will be able to hold on to your values and then work and then survive in the space that you are operating.
Interesting. As you solve the problem, cash will follow,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Brilliant. And that kind of beautifully dovetails us into the second part, of our conversation around the company that you're trying to build or the world-class business that you want to build. So, Doc, just share with us, how do you go about building a world-class business, and what does that look like?
Okay, so I would have to make a few fundamental assumptions as well here. I would want to assume that anybody who wants to start a company might have had his own feasibility assessment, because that is one thing that we always overlook. Sometimes we see an idea, and in our own mind's eye, we think that this idea is excellent. It would sell in the marketplace, only for us to hit the road, spend some money, waste a bit of time for us to find out that the idea does not actually solve a problem for anybody. So I would assume that at this level, you have done all your feasibilities. You know that you have a solution. There's a need out there. It will meet the needs of the people. Then I also want to assume that you have also assessed your own self, that you have the technical know-how in the space that you are operating. You may have an idea, but you may not understand what happens within the industry. You should also be able to alert yourself that whatever you need to know within the space that you would want to operate, you have the experience, you have the know-how for you to be able to excel. So with these two main assumptions agreed, now we can go on to the company. You have an idea, you think it would meet the needs of a few people in the space. You want to start a company. In there, I am thinking, or my viewpoint is that there are three main things that you have to be very keen on. One is that you should have a mission for the company, and I would say a few more things about it. And two, you need to look at the people that you would have to work with. And then the third is the systems that you would want to employ for you to meet the needs that you have. The first point is what are you starting out there to achieve? That is the mission that you would want to work with. There should be a need. And how would you find the need? The need must not be seen from just your point of view, because you would be serving clients. You should be looking at the needs from the viewpoint of a client. Most often, we think this is what somebody needs, and so this is what I want to offer them, when that is not exactly what your clients may need. So you need to find a way to engage with the client. So that means that you have to know who exactly is your client. Who exactly is the client? That one must be very clear. What exactly is his need? And how do you meet that need in a sustainable way? Sometimes you may have a client who has a need, but in your attempt to meet that need, you may spend beyond what the individual or that client will also be able to pay. So you have to be able to know how do you meet that need in a sustainable way. And then finally, you need to, after you've been able to sustain this need, you have to now go on to the next level where you are not only looking at meeting the need, but adding some value to that client in that same space. The next that you have to engage yourself with is the people. There's no firm, there's no organization that exists in this world with just one man. One man may have the idea, but that idea cannot get onto the market unless you engage with other people to work with. And for every organization, if you are looking at something that is world-class, something which is excellent, which is elitist, which is first class, which is top-notch, then you have to engage with the right people. There are three sets of people that every leader, every entrepreneur would have to work with. The first group are the employees. You have to hire a few hands to help you to achieve your aim. The next group is that because you lead a company, you don't have all the answers. You don't see it all. You don't know it all. So you need to have a group of experienced people who would oversee you as a person. Almost always where we fail is that leaders with an idea, they start a company, they have their staff, and everything that they do is just coming from their own viewpoint. They don't see those spots around themselves that they are not very well equipped enough. So I think that every organization will need a board. A board is a group of experienced people who have worked within the industry, who understand what happens in the space, who have got the right skill set to offer the lead and that guidance that every owner of a company would need. In our space, it's not often. Most of the firms that we know, most don't even have boards. And if they want to have boards, they will just find an auntie or a sister or a friend and have them on the board. These individuals, I can say on authority, will not offer you anything along those lines. They are just there to come and sing your praises. But that is not what you need a board to do. The board is meant to serve as a guide. They are to serve as the key people who would orient you, so that where you think you are even very sure, they would ask you the critical questions that would help you to rethink your solutions again. And they would also serve as the guide, so that you don't overcommit to other things that you can easily do if it's just your company, if you are just the all-in-all, you are the overall boss, everything starts and stops on your desk. So I think that the board is also very, very key. If you happen to be able to raise a few finances and also have got shareholders, as in others who own shares in the company, but who are not part of the operational staff of the team, then it means that you also need to engage with these shareholders. Now, for each set of people that you have to work with, there's an approach that you need to engage with them. With shareholders, you have to know who the shareholders are, what their interest is, and how you'll be able to work with them. Shareholders are key, they are critical, they are the ones who are offering you all the financing that you need. So you can't sidestep them. You need to stay in touch with them all the time and know exactly where their interest is. That interest would have to be met, because whenever a shareholder's interest is not being met, ultimately, because they own a huge chunk of the company, a call at the level of the shareholders can change the structure of a company in a single day. If you have a board, you also need to know how to engage with the board. You know their experiences, you know the expertise that they have. So you know which issues you have to send to the board so that they can give you the right direction that you have. Shareholders, boards, everybody has an interest. You need to know them individually, what the interest is, so that as you lead the organization, you need them to support you. You don't need your board to antagonize you in any way. You don't need your shareholders to fight you in any way. So you have to engage with them so that you know exactly what they want, and then you can meet that at that level. At the same time, you should also do this having your client in mind. I started by saying that solution is what you want to offer the marketplace, and that is the need of a client. So whilst you satisfy the interest of your boss and your shareholders, you need to also be able to ensure that the interest of that client is not being left on any day. The main thing that I want to spend a bit more, maybe a few more minutes on, is on the employees. Employees are key to the success of any organization. There's no way that you alone as the leader, you alone as the know-all can achieve much if you want to work on your own. What I have found in our space is that most entrepreneurs end up having to do a lot of the work themselves. And therefore, there's so much that you can do on your own. So your firm cannot grow beyond yourself. If everything that has to happen in your firm starts, and it depends on you, there's not much that you'll be able to achieve. But once we are aiming at something that is world-class, it means that you have to learn how to work with people. Employees, number one. Employees, you need to know what your real needs are and hire right. We always struggle because we don't hire right. Most often, when we want to hire, the only thing that we have available to us is that we are looking at a CV, and then we are going to organize an interview and meet the person and hire them. I haven't looked at anyone's CV in the last 5 years, because CVs, honestly, if you ask me my viewpoint, CVs don't actually say much. Job interviews, I think, it's just a space for us to waste our time. Because when you sit on any of these job interviews, it is one liar who is in a hurry to look for a job, comes in, everything that you're asking them without the experience, they will say, we've done A, B, C, D, E, and F. So my own experience at Acacia, we've not hired anybody in the last 5 years. Everybody that we've hired has had to come through as a service person. So you come in, you have 1 year to work with us. Within that 1 year, you feel in your mindset that, okay, this is just service that I need to work for. And in there, I'm looking at your attitude, I'm looking at your work output, I'm looking at how you engage with staff, I'm looking at every other thing else. So almost every year, we hire about maybe 4 or 5 service person, and then at the end of the year, we may only keep 1 or 2. And the ones that you keep are the ones with the right attitude. If I had my own way, I would have had a law that says that every employer can fire a staff within maybe 6 months when you think or when they are not offering you exactly what you had hired them for. But in our world, it's as if it's so hard for, it's very easy for us to hire, but so hard for you to fire staff. So most firms are saddled with staff without the right attitude, without the right skill sets in a role that you can't fire as well. So hire right. For you being the entrepreneur, the only control you have is that you need to hire right. You need to hire right. If all you have is the CV, make sure that you get to do a detailed check on all your employees. Do a thorough check, background check. Make sure that they have the experience. Don't give anybody any job if the man hasn't got any experience. No matter how well he's able to speak his English, no matter how well he's able to give you anybody to act as his reference, make sure that he has the ability to be able to execute. Because you don't have much time. You are the entrepreneur. You don't have the financing. So the least that you want on your list is a staff who is not also producing, who is on the payroll, who needs to be paid every month. Be open and be quick to fire if you have to. I think once we're able to organize this right, you should be able to have a company that starts on a good note for you to move. And then my very last thing that I'll say on the company front is systems. Systems, I mean, there are several systems, but the key areas that I want all firms to be able to focus on is that you need to have a system that is meant to acquire a client. Client acquisition system has to be excellent. And then the 2, you need to have a client retention system. I think if you're able to excel in these areas, every other thing else that you do are just there for adjunct services. They are only support services. Finance, HR, all those ones are just support services. If you don't acquire a client, if you can't retain these clients, there will be no work for your HR to do. There will be no work for your finance to do. So the key system for me is how you're going to acquire your clients and how you'll be able to retain them. I think if you get these right, what you need to do is to be able to have your eye on the company and then watch your team excel. I would make one final note. If you have a team that works excellently, that know their work, you have to also learn as an entrepreneur to stay out of their space. Your work is to lead them. Your work is, you are not the operations guy. Yours is to lead, chart the course, and make sure that every barrier that would ensure that your staff will fail in the role that you have assigned them, remove that barrier. So my role as a CEO is that I need to just walk ahead of the team and make sure that I clear the pathway. Every hurdle, I clear it, so that as the team comes by, they would also be able to excel and do the work that they would have to do. I think that once you're able to get these fine areas very organized well, you should be, or you should have a team that should excel in the space.
Awesome. Awesome, Doc. Some very profound thoughts there. But Doc, I just want you to double click a little bit on the systems. I mean, you talk about such critical things. Systems meant to acquire clients and systems meant to retain clients. So can you just expand on that a bit for us? So is it the sales mechanism? I mean, what exactly are you speaking to on those systems?
So your systems for you to have a client, I started by saying earlier that you need to know who your client is. You need to know where to find that client. You have to also be prepared to get to where they are. Because in the world that we have moved in, clients will not come to companies. Companies must get to the client. So if you are sitting, you have an office and you are waiting for somebody to come and inquire about what service you are offering so that they would come and use your service, I think you would wait and not have anybody. So the major thing is find who the client is and where they are. And how do you reach out to them? Sometimes in my space, we sell to a lot of corporate firms. So my key client is not the organization. My key client is the HR person, because he has got a team of staff under his or her belt. And one of the key things that he is looking at is to make sure that his staff are healthy. So my key client is the HR. Where would I find this HR? So my sales team, their efforts, all the efforts that we do is spent at making sure that we find and meet these HRs. We engage with them at any fora where you have HRs meeting and arranged, meeting to engage on any subject. We are there. We are not there to actually sell, but we are there to build a relationship with someone. We've worked with a few HRs who were in one organization, moved over to the next one, and when they went there, they came back to Acacia. As and when they move across board, they always would carry your company with them alongside. This is our own strategy. So you would have to understand what space are you operating, who is the client, and how do you get them. If you have one individual as a client, that one is gold. It's like having been able to fish out of a lot of ore and being able to extract your gold out. You need to handle him or her with care. Sometimes the needs of a client may not be at par with your own interests as a company. But in the interest of long-term survival, sustainability, you may have to sacrifice a few short-term things that you lose on the part of a client so that you can keep them in there for many years. And then I'll use this one as a very good example. We have worked with Absa for a few years now. It's not been the most fantastic story, but I've been keen on that. We've held on with them. We've worked with Absa, and I'm sure that as we expand, as we also grow, we can still have Absa with us for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. So short-term mindset, short-term goals should be out of the way when you have to engage with a client, because it's not very easy to find one on the market. So once you find one, make sure that whatever services you are offering him or her, he is very happy, he's excited, and he's able not only to use your services again, but can also recommend you to other people so that they can come and then use your services.
Thank you very much, Doc. And on that note, viewers, thank you for joining us. We're ending today's session, but you may post your questions, your comments, your suggestions in the comments section. We will respond to them. We are committed to helping you find a way to get things done. That is what we call Africanacity. Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you again at the next session next month.